Welcome back to Leadership Devotionals. Today we have the fourth installment of The Leader's Mind. And this time, it is something, again, another interesting way our brain is hardwired. Last time it was hardwired for being optimistic. Now, science have found out that we are hardwired for love. In a beautiful book by T. Gibson, A God Named Desire. In the first chapter of that book, he wrote these things. He said, "Scientists are baffled by the mounting pile of evidence demonstrating that we humans are creatures engineered for love rather than just simply mere biological survival machines." Way back in the 13th century, when Frederick II, the German king and the Holy Roman Emperor, conducted a cruel experiment intended to discover what language children would speak if they are never spoken to. He had a hunch it would be German. And so what he did was, babies were taken from their parents at birth and they were placed in the care of nurses who were forbidden to speak in front of the babies or in their hearing. And an additional rule was imposed as well to prevent nurses from bonding with these children, with these infants. There should be no touch. All changing and feeding had to be conducted using, utensils or forceps in order to ensure zero physical contact. The diabolical study never yielded the information Frederick wanted, but it did certainly reveal something far more significant regarding human nature. The babies grew up speaking no language at all because all of them died. In the year 1248, the Italian historian Salimbene recorded with an air of scientific observation, "They could not live," referring to the babies, "they could not live without petting or touching." The newborns died for want of affectionate touch, which is to say that they could not survive without the sense of love and connectedness that is communicated to the body and mind by the power of touch. For some reason, we flourish under the influence of love, and we gradually die without it. Frederick's experiment revealed long ago what scientists now are currently discovering to their absolute astonishment. In his national bestseller, Love and Survival, authored by a famous Dr. Dean Ornish, presents a study after study to demonstrate that the human being is literally engineered for love. Ornish shows that love is the main factor involved in determining mental, emotional, as well as our physical well-being. He says, anything that promotes feeling of love and intimacy is also healing. Anything that promotes isolation, separation, loneliness, loss, hostility, anger, cynicism, depression, alienation, and related feelings often leads to suffering, disease, and premature death from all causes. Dr. Ornish is not using the word love as it often is defined today in our pop culture. The data is indicating that human beings are psychologically and biologically dependent on giving love in the form of, being other-centered or other-centered service, benevolence, affection, forgiveness, compassion, as well as receiving love of the same character. Dr. Ornish's research clearly indicates that we are wired for giving and receiving love. We human beings, we are wired for receiving and giving love, and that our health and survival rightly depends on it. The scientific evidence leaves little doubt that love and intimacy are powerful determinants of our health and survival. Why they have such an impact on our health remains such a mystery. But fellow leaders, we have studied in the last devotional that in Genesis 1:26 it says, we are created and in the image and the likeness of God. It says there, God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. That follows the question, what is the image of God? 1 John 4:8 says that the image of God is love, for God is love. And no wonder the fruit of our character will be that same love when the Spirit of God, okay, when God's Holy Spirit resides in our hearts. You can read that in Galatians 5 verse 22. But the fruit of the Spirit is love. Of course, it has all other fruits, joy, peace, long-suffering, but the very first one that encapsulates everything, the fruit of God's Spirit residing in you, is love. So leaders, what is this to us? I would advise you to listen to the TED Talk of Mr. Matt Tinney. It is entitled, Why the Best Leaders Make Love Their Priority. You know, in that TED Talk, Matt Tinney said, great leaders have this priority. Number one, love their employees. When these great leaders love their employees, these employees next take care of their customers. And when the customers is taken care of, the company's goals, which is basically profit or the bottom line, follows. In that order, love your employees, because when you love your employees will take care of their customers, of your customers. And when your customers are taken care of, revenues and profits follow. When employees are loved, the engagement is more than even 100%. And when the engagement of this employee is very high, productivity in the company follows. And when they feel the love of their leaders, these employees, will increase productivity also by taking care of the resources, bringing down the expenses, and at the same time, innovation follows. And so great leaders, or the best leaders, usually love their employees. Not the kind of love that, you go about hugging people. It's not like that. It's what I've said a while ago, the other-centeredness of the leader. Being sensitive to the needs of your people, being sensitive to their feelings, being sensitive and attentive to what they need in order to grow in your company, in order for them to develop themselves into the persons that they are. When we feed that attentiveness, which is fueled by our innate self, which is, love, the end result is the product that will further our leadership and bring to accomplishment the goals of the company. I'll give you one example. You have heard of the CEO of Southwest Airlines, Herb Kelleher. This guy has a certain touch of connecting with his people. In fact, he would even, sometimes be found there among the beggars among the beggars, they bringing coffee to them, and after bringing, attending to their needs, he would also help early in the morning, putting these bags on, on different destinations. Sometimes you can see him, helping in the lines of, of the clients getting up, boarding the plane. Or you can see him sometimes in the plane, helping customers putting their luggages on overhead cabins. One time when Southwest Airlines, the revenues were down and they are going into a state of non-profit, some of the management people said, it's about time for us to lay off people. But Herb said, no way. I love these people. We're not going to lay off anyone. He wrote the memo and sent out to the more than 33,000 people who are under him. He said, if we are just willing to give back to the company, even just a small $5, at least $5, we will be able to survive this crisis and we will still end up to be profitable. How he wrote that memo was the most important part. At the end of that memo, he did not say from the office of the CEO or from the office of the president. He wrote there, love her. Love her. And when people read that, they were able to identify with her. They can see him, there with the buggers. They can see him there in the lines. They can see him everywhere, and they love the guy. And they were not just simply giving back to the company $5. Some were giving 10, some were giving 20. And at the end of the year, Southwest Airlines, despite the aviation glut, Southwest Airlines was profitable. It was because the best leaders make love their priority. And fellow leader, that love is there in you. It's there in you. It's there in your mindset. It's there in your heart. That's your image that you were made on. That is the likeness that you were created on. When we simply imbibe the Spirit of God in us, it restores us to the well-being, to the likeness that we were originally created. And we were originally created in the character of love. Use that innate character of you and bring out the best in your people. God bless you all.